When fake news is repeated, it becomes difficult for the public to discern what's real. Hence, purveyors of such stories are liable. This is the debacle that self-styled activist Mahdi Shehu has brought upon himself after he shared doctored videos purporting that the federal government grants France permission to set up a military base in the north. The Department of State Services DSS has filed a 5-count terrorism-related charge against Mahdi Shehu at the Federal High Court sitting in Kaduna. There are indeed consequences for every action. All right, Adewale Adeoye, there are consequences for every action, but is Shehu Mahdi paying for his sins, basically for disseminating false information?
Well, the acts of terrorism as categorized by international or national laws are not just when people throw bombs or when people involved in physical violent acts. Communicative acts can also be seen as an inducement to terrorism. When actions are taken to create a mood of fear, to instigate violence, which is clearly stated in the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2022. So I think what the DSS has done is to approach the courts. In the past, security organizations detain people without court order, but they were able to go to court and seek a court order to detain him for the next 60 days. And I think the DSS is using the one of the points made against him is the circulation of that video believed to have been doctored, which gave the impression that the military has established, the French, have established a military base in Nigeria. It has a lot of national and international implications because terrorism is not just domestic, it's also national and it's also transnational. If you see what is going on in the Maghreb region, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, that have expelled the French military bases. So, and this is a very popular decision in these countries. And Nigeria is currently having a diplomatic role with these 3 countries. So if it is assumed by citizens of these countries that they are coming to establish a military base in Nigeria, it can instigate violence against citizens of those countries. It can prepare them to hate Nigeria. And we also know that we have millions of Hausa people in Niger, in Burkina Faso, and so it can cause transnational crisis. Especially when you realize what happened in the past, the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact that was rejected by Nigerians, in the 1960s. So I think such a video, which can easily be assimilated by millions of people all over West Africa, could jeopardize the image of Nigeria and can instigate the civil society, communities, societies against the government.
All right then. So, Kaidi, will this serve as an example for people who post misleading information, doctored information on social media? Will this serve as a deterrent?
That also takes me to, I don't know whether you saw another viral video where the police force held a press conference and they brought one guy, I can't remember his name, who was also misleading people, inciting people, telling governors in the southeast that they should have, set a trap for President Tinubu and do all kinds of nefarious things. And he felt, this is social media. I am not being regulated. I can say anything that I want, but there are laws against it. And police was right there asking him questions, and he said, oh, it does not mean Enugu, probably there's another Enugu. And he started denying those things that he was vociferously, talking about on air. And this, like you said, it should not just serve as a deterrent, but I think my call is more to Nigerians, is more to the people, that when you have traced someone with giving out unverified information, I don't see any reason why you should listen to that person again. Even if it's a media house that has been known to be disseminating fake
falsehood
or false information, you have a duty to ignore such things. You recall the days of how some people were using the social media to say President Buhari was dead and all kinds of things.
Oh, it's from one country, different names.
You will even imagine graduate from universities and people who went to school. You know, so my call is to them to wake up. My call is to them to not get, you know, incited or deceived by people. And I think the presidency has done well, especially, what's his name now, the guy that just joined them, the guy from PDP. Dana Buala. You have to speak in Hausa, you have to speak to people, because these are the people they are inciting, they are giving them the impression. And you know, these neighboring countries has close affiliation with the northern part of Nigeria. So they were making it look like, oh, the president is out to bring French troops, you know, to make the matter worse, to fight, in quotes, their brothers in all these places. This is quite dangerous. And I'm sure the intensity, the enormity of what he has done is what DSS is addressing.
Okay.
That this is not one of those social media rants that must be overlooked.
All right, Ade, maybe just in 1 minute, because I've heard conversations that this matter could ignite a discussion about the balance between freedom of expression and national security. Where should we strike that balance? Just in 1 minute.
Yeah, there's no country where there's a blank check when you are talking about freedom of speech. Even in the US, in Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, there are limitations. There are things you can say and things you cannot say.
Sure.
Especially when they constitute threat to shared values of the society. You know, there's no limit. I mean, there's a limit to freedom, and we must recognize these limits and apply them in our daily activities.